Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself. So my name is Scott Oakley, and I'm the technical manager here at Glasscorp. Okay, just a quick overview on what we'll be covering today. We'll start off with a quick overview of panel bonding technology. We'll then look at some of the features of the DOWSIL PanelFix system and the components included. We'll look at the different methods of installation, comparing on-site application with in-factory application of the product. We'll look at different options when it comes to cladding materials that can be used before looking at some examples of projects where PanelFix has been used around the world. Finishing up with specific application methodology and a little bit about warranties and the technical project support that Glasscorp can offer. Let's start with an introduction to panel bonding technology and the different ways that facade panels and cladding are fixed to buildings. But first, while the subject of this presentation is the DOWSIL PanelFix system, it would be remiss of me not to mention where the use of structural adhesives in facades originated. And that was in the 1960s when Dow pioneered a construction technology that has changed the face of cities around the world, structural silicone glazing. The world's first four-sided structural silicone glazing system was installed in Detroit, Michigan in 1971, with the product and facade still in place and still performing to this day, over 50 years later. Now, in this presentation, we're talking panel bonding, so let's look at some of the different fixation methods that are used to install facade and cladding panels. There are several different methods that cladding and facade panels can be fixed to a building. These include through the use of visible mechanical fixings, panels being retained around the edge, through hidden or concealed fixings, or through the use of a structural adhesive. Mechanical fixation involves securing cladding or panels to a structure with fasteners like screws, rivets, or clips that are left exposed. While this can be economical and in certain instances allow for faster installation than other methods, there are some considerations that should be made. These include the fact that visible fasteners are often perceived as being unsightly and contributing to poor aesthetic quality. The use of mechanical fixings will often require that cladding or facade panels of a minimum thickness are used. There are aspects as well related to maintenance to consider. Mechanical fasteners can allow for dirt buildup, making it more difficult to clean the facade. Mechanical fasteners may also act as avenues for moisture to penetrate into cladding. Hidden or concealed facade fixation involves securing cladding panels to a building's exterior without visible fasteners. This can allow for enhanced aesthetic appeal and durability, with the mechanical fixings protected from external weathering and damage. Some considerations to make for this type of fixation method include the requirement that panels are sufficiently thick in order to accommodate internal mechanical fixings that can support the panel weight. The example shown here shows panels that have screws embedded into them, with the panels being then attached to the building through hidden brackets and wall plugs. There are also considerations around the cost and lead time for special cladding panels to be both produced and installed. Finally, adhesive fixation offers a concealed and flexible method for attaching cladding panels. There are a few key benefits to this type of system. One, the full aesthetic quality of the facade is retained, with no visible mechanical fixings required. Elastic adhesives can absorb natural movement and vibrations in building materials, preventing stress and cracking. Adhesive bonding distributes stress evenly across the entire panel, unlike mechanical fixings, which can create localized stress points. The use of bonding adhesives can allow for the use of thinner and lighter panels, potentially saving on costs. Finally, the use of bonding adhesives allow for easy application and panel installation. This brings us to the DOWSIL PanelFix system, the features and benefits of which we'll cover in this next section. Firstly, we have DOWSIL 896 PanelFix. This is an elastic, one-component, neutral curing silicone adhesive designed specifically for non-glass panel bonding applications that require high durability and fast handling. DOWSIL PanelFix tape is a prefixing tape used for the temporary fixation of facade panels during the silicone adhesive curing process. Glasscorp provides solvent cleaners, isopropyl alcohol, and RFB 7803 cleaner, being the two recommended and approved for panel bonding applications. The cleaner you'll choose for your application will typically be determined by the material or substrate you're working with. Primers are adhesion promoters. If primers are required in order to obtain adhesion, and I say if, very often good adhesion can be achieved without needing to use a primer. However, if needed, DOWSIL offer different primers depending on the substrate you're trying to stick to. DOWSIL 1200 OS primer is a general purpose primer, with DOWSIL Construction Primer P being used specifically for porous substrates. Taking a closer look at the DOW 896 PanelFix product itself, it's a one-part neutral cure silicone adhesive. It is available in different formats, as you can see, both cartridges and sausages, and it is available in standard colors of black and white. The standard format that we carry and supply 896 in is in 600mm foils. It has very high green strength being that initial grab strength on the substrate on application, which develops further as the product cures. The product has very good adhesive properties in general, with primerless adhesion to a variety of substrates, such as anodized aluminum and mineral substrates. Low squeeze out. The product is more viscous than other structural silicone sealants, meaning it won't smudge, helping to reduce wastage during application. DOWSIL 896 has very high compression resistance, requiring 5 megapascals of pressure to compress the sealant down to 1 millimeter. This helps to ensure uniform results when installing panels. Finally, 896 is stable over a very large temperature range, from minus 50 degrees Celsius up to 150 degrees Celsius, allowing it to be used in different regions and climate zones. The other part of the DOWSIL PanelFix system is the tape, which is necessary for effective on-site panel bonding. The primary function of the PanelFix tape is to keep the panel in place during the first 24 hours as the DOW 896 cures, after which point it's the adhesive that's doing all of the work. The tape also ensures that the minimum thickness of the adhesive joint is achieved. The tape has good compressibility, enabling very strong initial tack, complementing the already high green strength of the DOW 896. Included in the PanelFix system are V-shaped nozzles. These form a uniform triangular bead, ensuring full contact and wetting out of the surface when panels are pressed into place. This also allows for the final intended joint dimension of 12mm by 3mm. We'll now look at different ways the DOWSIL PanelFix system is installed, comparing on-site installations to those done in a factory or workshop setting. In this photo, we have a job that is in progress and an example of what may be considered the standard method of installation, where panels are installed on-site. This type of design utilizes a metallic subframe fixed to the wall, to which adhesive and tapes are applied to. Panels are then positioned and fixed to the subframe on site. This type of installation allows for all of the benefits of adhesive fixation that we covered previously, an easy to install or cost-effective solution than mechanical fixation methods that can utilize thinner panels as no intrusion into the panel is required. An alternative method of installation to this is what we term in-factory application. In the system, hooks are bonded onto the panel in a factory setting. Panels are then transported to site where they can be hung onto a fixed subframe. On top of the standard benefits of adhesive panel fixation, there are a few additional benefits that in-factory installations provide, including no weather constraints. Obviously, when installing panels indoors, you don't have to worry about rain or harsh weather, which makes scheduling work a lot easier. The controlled conditions in a factory setting can make it easier to achieve a quality application of the product when you're not worrying about things like temperature, humidity, dust, or other external factors interfering with the install of the product. In certain instances, for installations approved by DOW, tape can be omitted from the system design for in-factory installation. For example, if hooks were to be bonded in factory and the DOW 896 left to fully cure through before panels were moved to site, the tape wouldn't be required to provide support to the panel at any stage in the install and could possibly be left out. I'll note that this is something that we would need to assess with DOW on a case-by-case basis for in-factory installations. In-factory applications can also allow for greater design freedom, for example, potentially allowing for larger size panels to be used. There's a bit of science around this, which I won't go into, but this is related to forces not being transmitted directly through the DOW PanelFix product when it's not being used to bond directly to the panel. In any case, we're able to work with DOW to provide support when it comes to questions on engineering design for applications that use the PanelFix system. Here is just another photo from an in-factory application showing the back of a few panels where hooks have been prefixed, after which point the panels have been moved to site to be mounted. Let's talk about what types of cladding materials can be used with the DOWSIL PanelFix system. DOWSIL 896 PanelFix can be used with many common cladding panel materials, including aluminium, high-pressure laminates, fiber-reinforced concrete, ceramics, and metal composite panels. It has also been shown to work effectively with specialty composite panels such as Corian and Neolith. These are just a few suppliers of facade and cladding panels that DOW have collaborated with in projects utilizing PanelFix in Europe. Alucoil, a Spanish-based metal composite panel supplier, Laminam, an Italian supplier of ceramic tiles, Turner, a brand of fiber-reinforced cement cladding materials out of Belgium, and the last two, both Dutch brands, are Trespa, who supply high-pressure laminate panels, and Rock Panel, a brand of mineral wood wall boards. DOW have conducted formal adhesion testing on several different cladding types, including some of the brands mentioned in the previous slide. If you are selecting materials for a panel bonding application and require some guidance, let us know. There's a possibility that we may have tested the product before, or that DOW may have a test record and can advise on required cleaners, primers, if there are any. As you may well know, at Glasscorp, we facilitate laboratory testing through DOW for adhesion, compatibility, and non-stain testing. So if you are working with a particular material or substrate which is unfamiliar, or if you're embarking on a project that requires a formal warranty from DOW, we are able to send samples away on your behalf to be formally tested. Typical lead times for lab testing through DOW are roughly 8 weeks. We're also able to assist with preliminary adhesion testing. It's often the case that in the first instance, the quickest way to determine if good adhesion can be achieved is to prepare a simple layout either on-site or at Glasscorp with samples provided. Through doing this, we can usually get a very good indication within a week if adhesion can be achieved or not, or if any particular treatment, such as a primer, may be required in order to achieve good adhesion. In this next section, we'll take a look at some of the projects where the PanelFix system has been used around the world. First up, opened in 2014, the Kelpies are located in Falkirk, Scotland. The pair of sculptures standing 30 meters tall are modeled on heavy working horses, exemplifying the industrial history of the region. DOWSIL 896 PanelFix was specified for bonding the stainless steel skin plates, which were used to clad the horses' manes on each of the sculptures. Of the many technical issues this project presented, the fastening of the external stainless steel skin plates to the primary steel support structure was particularly challenging due to the different shaped cladding panels and meeting the performance specification as prescribed by the project team. Altogether, external skin plates comprising of over 100 different shapes and dimensions were used. For this design, DOW proposed the use of silicone bonding with high-strength DOW PanelFix in combination with mechanical fixings. This allowed each of the stainless steel plates to be quickly and securely fastened, preventing vibration and accommodating dynamic wind loads. The use of the PanelFix system enabled the curved sections of the panels to be securely fixed to the substructure. Completed in 2017, the Portal Lifestyle Complex is a 4-story venue housing retail and hospitality space situated in Bangkok, Thailand. The curves on the exterior facade are inspired by the movements of the ocean, with designers incorporating the use of aluminium composite panels to create the desired effect. The impact of the design hinged on making the connections, points, and seams virtually invisible, as unsightly mechanical fasteners would have detracted from an otherwise elegant appearance. There were concerns about whether an adhesive alone could provide enough support to hold the individually shaped curved panels in place, the panels being large and heavy, requiring an exceptionally strong bond. Here we have some photos that were taken during assembly. These photos show curved triangular panels being installed onto a subframe using DOWSIL PanelFix in factory. These were assembled as modules, with each module comprising approximately 12 panels. From there, the sub-assembly modules were transported to site to be installed onto the building structure, as you can see. The decision to use DOWSIL PanelFix on this project resulted in significant time and cost savings from what was originally planned. Here, DOWSIL PanelFix was used to install ceramic cladding panels on the eaves and sections of the facade at the Darling Harbour Convention Centre in Sydney. Here is a project that was done in Manila, the Robinsons building. This was actually a refurbishment, with the exterior cladding being replaced with new ACM panels installed using PanelFix. You could see the before photo on the left and the refurbished facade on the right. Here are some photos of the building during the renovation. During this project, a typhoon actually hit Manila. The project team were pleasantly surprised to see that afterwards, panels that had been glazed just one day earlier were all still securely fixed in place. And here are some photos taken in factory from another job in the Philippines. In this instance, PanelFix is being used to install panel stiffeners. This is an application that we've supplied PanelFix for to customers here, and where PanelFix has been shown to perform very well. In this section, we'll run through the application methodology as well as some of the QA requirements for the PanelFix system. An important part of any sealant application process is quality control. A standard test for one-part sealants that can be applied to PanelFix is the skin over time test. This test is done to ensure that the product is curing at the expected rate. Start off with extruding a small amount of DOWSIL 896 onto substrate. After 60 minutes, the skin of the silicone should be fully cured. Touching the sealant should leave no mark, and there should be no sealant on your finger. Note that we expect DOWSIL 896 to skin off much quicker than this during application, depending on environmental conditions. If the product hasn't skinned off after an hour, or if you have concerns, contact Glasscorp. The other standard QA test that DOWSIL recommend is the pre-adhesion test. We recommend including this test as part of your QA program for every PanelFix project you do, even if you're working with familiar substrates or you have a formal adhesion test report in hand. This test will verify that adhesion can be achieved in real-world conditions, while also checking the workmanship of the applicator as far as substrate cleaning and priming is concerned. Setting up a pre-adhesion test is simple. Properly clean and prime the test substrate. Apply a bead of DOWSIL 896 PanelFix and tool to form a strip approximately 20 centimeters long. After the product has had time to cure, firmly hold a tab of sealant and pull it back at a 180-degree angle, observing the method of failure while doing so. The image on the top shows cohesive failure. This is what we want to see, the sealant tearing within itself under stress. The bottom image shows adhesive failure, with the sealant pulling away cleanly from the substrate. This is what we do not want to see. Finally, peel adhesion testing can also be done on the PanelFix tape. The tape has very high tack and will tear cohesively within itself under stress when well bonded to a substrate. Before applying sealant, always check that the product being used is within date and don't use expired product. Before applying the PanelFix system, it's essential that all surfaces to be bonded are clean, dry, and free from any contaminants, as this can have an adverse effect on adhesion. We nominate the industry standard two-cloth cleaning method. Firstly, dispense cleaning solvent onto a clean, white, lint-free cloth. We supply safety blowback bottles, which can be used to dispense solvent cleaner. This makes application easy and eliminates the risk of cross-contamination into the solvent container. Use this cloth to vigorously rub the substrate, lifting any dirt and contaminants. Then, using a second clean, white, lint-free cloth, immediately wipe the joint surfaces clean. If a primer is required, check that the product is in date and in good condition. Dow recommend that primer should be applied within 4 hours of surfaces being cleaned to mitigate the risk of surface contamination. If this is exceeded, the substrate should be cleaned again. Apply primer with a brush, cloth, or roller according to the instructions detailed in the product TDS. Leave the primer to dry for sufficient time as specified in the product TDS. Be careful not to apply too much primer, as this can actually make adhesion worse. Seeing chalky or powdery residue on the surface is often a sign that too much primer has been applied or that the primer has expired and is no longer fit for purpose. Once cleaning and priming has been completed and is dry, apply DOWSIL PanelFix tape continuously and vertically onto the supporting structure. Press the tape firmly to ensure proper adhesion. To avoid contamination of the adhesive surface, do not remove the protective film from the tape until the panel is ready for installation. After cleaning, priming, and tape installation, Dow 896 may then be applied onto the supporting structure. Applying PanelFix directly to the panel is also possible if required. Apply PanelFix in a continuous operation using a caulking gun, allowing for a minimum of 10 mm distance from the tape. Positive pressure is needed to ensure the right amount of silicone is applied. The V-shaped nozzles provided will form a triangular bead, which will lead to a final joint dimension that is 12 mm wide by 3 mm thick, ensuring full contact and wetting of the surface. Extrude the silicone with a minimum angle between the nozzle and the surface to achieve the required joint dimensions. Dow advised that PanelFix must be applied within 8 hours of the substrate being primed. If this time is exceeded, the surface must be recleaned and reprimed before applying the product. We really want to avoid leaving surfaces that are to be sealed open for too long, especially on site where there is an increased risk of contamination of the surfaces. Now it's time to install the panel. It's important to note here that the panel must be installed before the silicone begins to form a skin, which may be within only 5 to 10 minutes after sealant application, depending on temperature and humidity. After silicone application, remove the protective layer from the prefixing tape. Place the panel into position, gently pressing and correcting if needed. The installer may use panel suckers, sealing blocks, spacers, or other supporting tools to assist in the proper positioning of the panel. Once in position, apply further pressure to ensure that the PanelFix tape is in complete contact with the inner faces of both the panel and the supporting structure. In this last section, we'll cover off some of Dow's technical and project services, as well as the requirements we need to meet in order to obtain a project warranty. Dow offers a project-specific warranty for the DOWSIL PanelFix system. I'll run through the steps required in order to get a panel bonding warranty. These are quite similar to the processes that we apply for structural glazing warranties. Firstly, Dow will review the nominated design. We'll provide a checklist of information that Dow will need to verify. This will include relevant items such as expected dynamic wind loads on site, panel dimensions and weights, as well as the thermal expansion coefficient of the panel material. Once Dow has received this information and is satisfied, they'll issue an approval letter. If there are issues noted in the submitted design, they'll make recommendations on how these may be mitigated. For example, this may be adding additional vertical frames to support a panel if the nominated design is found to be insufficient. Dow will conduct formal lab testing for adhesion and compatibility on representative samples of the project substrates. They'll then issue lab reports, which will provide recommendations on application methods and listing any primers if these are required. Installation is then carried out in accordance with Dow guidelines. This includes relevant quality control procedures and record keeping. At this stage, Glasscorp will be available to offer training. We'd also be conducting cutout tests or deglazes on applied panels as an independent check on quality. Once the project is finished, we would submit our record of cutout tests to Dow, together with a complete list of quantities and batch numbers of Dow 896 product that has been used. After which point, Dow, having reviewed all of the documentation, will issue a 10-year panel bonding warranty. That brings us to the end of the webinar. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you were able to take something from this.